Going down this weekend, we got UFC Vegas 111, Bonfim versus Brown. And in this video, I will be giving you my full card breakdown along with a pick for every single fight on this card, man. And I feel like this is a very interesting card going down in the Apex, man. A lot of tricky matchups here, man. I had a hard time, deciding who I was going to be picking in some of these fights, which means it's pretty good matchmaking, man. I know it doesn't have a ton of big names, but stylistically, we got some interesting fights on this card. Let's waste no time, ride right into this thing, starting with the very first fight of the night. We got a good one. We got a banger between two guys that I don't have much faith in Robert Valentin and Jackson McVey. Robert Valentin is winless in the UFC, right? Coming off of 3 losses, right? Lost to Ryan Loder, got ground and pounded out. Again, good wrestler. Split decision loss to Torres Finney, landed more damage. Torres Finney just basically hugged him the whole time. Then goes out there and gets starched by Adabagatier, who's looking like the middleweight Francis Ngannou. So we got a guy who, he was on The Ultimate Fighter, got some wins on there, right? He's got a solid submission game, got some dangerous power on the feet. I feel like he's a little more proven here. And that's kind of what this comes down to for me, right? Jackson McVey, he's 6-1, and he's beating a bunch of, nobodies, to be honest, right? Taxi cab drivers over in LFA. Right, he goes out there and loses to Bruno Ferreira. Again, it was short notice, and I mean, what a horrible debut matchup that is against Bruno Ferreira. That's a nightmare, right? Bruno Ferreira is an absolute monster. So I give Jackson a little bit of a pass there. I like the Moose, man. It's kind of a cool nickname. Look, he's a tall, rangy guy, right? 6'4", right? They match in reach, which is interesting here. But Robert Valentin, to me, is the more dangerous guy, man. I know that it hasn't looked pretty for him since he's been in the UFC, but don't forget what he was at least able to do on The Ultimate Fighter. And going off of more of the I would say maybe the better strength of schedule thus far, even though it's not particularly great. I kind of like what I've seen from Robert Valentin before these losses in the UFC. So if his chin's still all right, man, I feel like this guy can go out there and get it done against Jackson McVey. And I'm going to pick him by his second round submission here. I think on the feet, Jackson McVey's got that tall man defense, right? He's good in the clinch. Kind of reminds me a little bit of RDR with that. Likes to get to the clinch, let the, the knees and elbows go. So if Jackson McVey can get the fight there, I feel like, that would favor him. But I feel like Robert Valentin's a little bit better than what people might want to give him credit for, man. That's a pretty steep schedule that he kind of had to deal with there. So I'm going to give him a shot here to get this one done again with low confidence. I don't have a lot of faith in both guys, and I question whether Jackson McVey is UFC caliber, which I guess you could question, is Robert Valentin even UFC caliber, but at least he was able to rack some up on The Ultimate Fighter. Haven't seen enough from Jackson McVey to say that he's going to go out there and beat a guy that does have decent power on the feet in Robert Valentin. I think he can find the chin, and on the floor, it's kind of what he was known for, was being a submission artist. So I feel like he's got the edge here because Jackson McVey, to me, relatively unproven. I don't know, man. Coin flip. I'll go Robert Valentin. Next, we got Miles Johns versus Daniel Marcos. I'm going to go Daniel Marcos here by a decision. Listen, I think that this is going to be a very close fight. I feel like this is one that we're going to look at and people are going to be crying robbery, or basically, so if they pick Miles Johns and Marcos wins, they'll be saying it was a robbery. And then if Marcos loses and Johns wins, right, and it's close, people will probably be crying robbery. But at the end of the day, it's going to be a close fight, I think, right? Miles Johns, he's got 14 losses, but, 2 of these losses rather recently, right? He goes out there, loses to Felipe Lima. Pretty good opponent. Very, very well-rounded. Solid ground game, right? Jean Matsumoto, promising prospect. Pretty good on the feet. Solid ground game as well. That was a close fight. I thought that could have went to Miles Johns. And I picked, Matsumoto to win that fight. But I feel like Miles Johns is just so predictable, right? Solid wrestling, right, but on the feet, he's kind of moving his head, but he throws the same shots, right? Here, jab. Up, here comes a big winging right hand. It's just very robotic when it comes to Miles Johns. And I just don't know that that's enough to beat Daniel Marcos, because Daniel Marcos is one of those guys that he's a marathon, right? But at a sprinting pace almost, right? He's going to throw a bunch of kicks out there, knees, elbows, punches. He just throws so much at you that you feel like you're in this 15-minute sprint with this guy, and you just feel constantly behind. And I think that that's what's going to happen to Miles in this fight. I feel like his ground game is good. He's a good wrestler, but Marcos is scrambly on the floor, man. And I picked Daniel Marcos in most of these fights, man. I think I picked him actually in all of them except for the Montel Jackson fight. And that was a staring contest, right? Basically both guys were just staring at each other, did a whole bunch of nothing, right? But at the end of the day, Montel Jackson has power. Miles Johns kind of has some power in that right hand, but he just wings it. It's easy to see. I think Daniel Marcos is going to go out there and just land more shots than him and outscore him. I mean, you watch the Davey Grant fight that could have went, to Davey Grant. John Castaneda went out there, ran it up on him. Close fight with Adrian Yanez. I don't know. I feel like it's going to be a close fight again. Might even be a split decision. Give me Daniel Marcos based off of landing the leg kicks, the knees. I think he stops the takedowns, is scrambly enough to get back to space. I just think he runs up the numbers and puts the points on the board. Give me Marcos by a very close decision. Next, we got Denise Gomes versus Tecia Pennington. This one I went back and forth on because the OG in me, I'm biased to the OGs a little bit, man. I like, the OGs that have been around that have kind of paved the way, right? And Tecia Pennington's an OG, right? She's been around the block. She's been around for a while. Good volume. Very, very durable. Very, very trustworthy for the most part, right? And if you look at these past 5 fights, these 2 losses, close one to Mackenzie Dern, close one to Tabitha Ricci, but stylistically, those are more grappling-based opponents, right? I know Ricci went out there and, got the finish here recently, which was a nice stoppage. But at the end of the day, like, Tecia Pennington's more of just volume, well-rounded, went out there. I picked her to win this fight and pull this one off, I believe. Right, goes out there, beats Carla Esparza, gets it done 4 years ago against Angela Hill, which that's kind of a good look because Angela Hill's a volume-based striker. She got out-volumed by Angela Hill, where Tecia's normally the one that can go out there and kind of out-volume you. The problem in this fight is Denise Gomes, while she may not have the volume, she's a heavy hitter, man. She's got some serious power, right? And I don't expect her to knock out Tecia Pennington in this fight, but she goes out there and knocks out Yasmin, loses to Angela Hill, again loses a points game. So that's why I'm like, man, it's kind of tempting because Tecia is the underdog, right? Goes out there, beats Eduardo Mora. That's a good win, right? Outscores Carolina, goes out there, finishes Elise Reed, who's got no chin. So at the end of the day, I don't think that Denise is going to, knock out Tecia here. But I feel like I got to fade the OG here, man. I'm going to be rooting for Tecia Pennington, and I hope she proves me wrong, but I am going to go Denise Gomes by a decision, and the reason is she's got the power edge, right? And she throws out quite a bit of volume, right? So I don't think that Ticia's going to be so far ahead of her in that aspect, but Denise just hits really hard, man. She's almost 26 years of age. I feel like she's really starting to kind of, find her groove in the UFC while Ticia's still hanging around, still being competitive. When you got a dangerous power hitter in front of you like Gomes, I just feel like it's going to be a little bit of an issue. And Denise can grapple too, right? So it's not like if things are, getting a little hairy on the feet for Tecia that she can really, resort to the ground game. I don't know if that's going to be an option for her in this fight. I think the power of Gomes is going to win the moments. It's just going to land the more damaging shots and win a close decision here. I'll say 29-28. Denise Gomes gets it done based on the more damaging shots. She might even get some control time on the floor. Like I said, rooting for Pennington, but I feel like Denise is going to get this one done. She's a little bit more dangerous. Next, we have Josh Hokit versus Max Gimenis. I'm going to go Josh Hokit by a first round stoppage. Listen, I think he's going to get the knockout here. I don't know. It might be on the ground. It might be on the feet. I really don't know. Both of these guys, I just don't really know, man. Like, I know more about Josh Hokit at this point, right? Training over at Jackson Wink. We know that they're kind of an all-star camp, right? They got Steve Garcia, John Jones. The list of names that have came out of that gym. They're very well coached. They come in very, very prepared for their fights. This guy's almost 28 years of age, man, right? And he comes over from LFA, putting in some work over there. Nice finish on the Contender Series. Goes out there and destroys a blob. But at the end of the day, like, Josh is an athlete, man, right? I think he was in the NFL for a little bit. He's a football player. He's wrestled. Super duper athletic. The one thing about him is he looks a little bit small to me in the heavyweight division, but he's fast and he's athletic. And this guy, Max Gimenis, he's he's a very highly credentialed jiu-jitsu guy, right? He's very good on the floor, nasty submission games. But again, in terms of MMA, yeah, he's finishing guys, but he's fighting taxi cab drivers, dog, right? And he's fighting over in Shogun. Shout out to Shogun. I've actually been to quite a few of those events. Shout out John Rollo, man, putting on some nice events here, right? They've got some good fighters over there. We've seen guys like Sadiq Yusuf come out of there, Tucker Lutz, but I'm sorry, man. I don't like what I've seen from Max Gimenis, right? A 6-14 professional, 9-9 John Ott. Going out there 7-8-1 against Diego, a 7-8-1 Diego here. I just got to go with what I've seen from Josh Moore, man. I feel like this is going to be Max trying to play the jiu-jitsu game, and I don't know, man. I don't see him getting on top of Josh in this fight. Unless Josh takes him down, gets swept, and gets reversed, I feel like this is Hokit's fight to lose. I don't like how big of a favorite he is because he's still relatively unproven. Super athletic, good wrestling, dangerous power, nasty ground and pound. I think he's able to put Gimenis on his back and beat him up on the floor with some ground and pound. Give me Josh Hokit to get a first-round TKO stoppage. Again, I don't know a lot about Max in terms of the MMA scene. I've seen him grapple. He's very, very good at grappling. But again, this is MMA. This ain't grappling. We've seen a lot of these, like Marcus Buchecha came over, got dusted by Martin Budai. I kind of expect something like that here. I think Josh Hokit's athletic ability is going to take over. Nasty ground and pound as well. Next, we got Mayra Bueno Silva versus Jacqueline Cavalcanti. I'm going to go Jacqueline Cavalcanti by a decision. Listen, I feel like this is, when it comes to WMMA, it's kind of lackluster, right? It's kind of hard to get excited for a lot of these fights. I am always excited to watch Jacqueline Cavalcanti fight. And you might say, well, she's a decision machine. Yeah, she is a decision machine, but I appreciate the technicalities that she brings to the game. She's 5'8", got a 70-inch reach. She's a very slick and precise striker on the feet, man. She only red flag that I would say kind of about her style is she doesn't really have any pop, right? She's got some good sting, right? Good technique, but doesn't really have that threatening factor that could get her in trouble in this fight because Mayra Bueno Silva has definitely been in there with the better competition, right? Not that long ago. I mean, she's going out there getting a knee bar, right? She's losing to Raquel Pennington, right? Getting stopped, by Macy Chasson with the cut, right? Losing to Jasmine Jasdavicius. I just feel like we've seen a different Mayra Bueno Silva, right? She kind of, I feel like hit her peak at this point, right? Where Jacqueline Cavalcanti's been rattling off wins, man. And this win over Melissa Croden, who just got her, debut win on the Vancouver card, she's really good, man. Melissa Croden's pretty solid. Went out there, got the stoppage victory over Lisboa. She beat her ass over the course of 5 rounds, did Cavalcanti, right? Goes out there, outscores, Farron, beats Nunes. I didn't think this was a split decision. It was just because Nunes was moving forward like a robot the whole time, a moving heavy bag. Cavalcanti dotted her up, beat the great Cornholio, Nora Cornol, right? And then goes out there and beats Julia Avila. She's just a more technical striker, right? I feel like Mayra, yeah, she's got some power. She's been in there with the better opposition. But I feel like that's really her only edge in this fight would maybe be if she could get the fight to the floor. She's strong. She's, got penguin-like footwork. Just kind of waddles around in there. I just don't like what I've seen from Mayra Bueno Silva. Maybe she goes out there and, checks Cavalcanti here. I don't know, man. I like Jacqueline Cavalcanti's style. I'm a nerd for a fun striker to watch that's good technique. Give me Jacqueline to outscore and win, I'll say a 30-27 decision over Bueno Silva. But maybe Silva could get her down and cause her some problems. I don't think so. I think the takedown defense holds up. Cavalcanti outscores her on the feet and gets it done by a unanimous decision. Next, we got Adrian Yanez versus Cristian Quiñonez. I'm going to go Adrian Yanez by a 3rd round knockout. Listen, I'm worried for Adrian in this fight because I don't think that highly of Cristian Quiñonez, but I will say this. He's a dog, right? He's got a very, well-rounded skill set, not particularly sharp on the feet, but he does have some power, right? We've seen that kind of throughout his career, especially going out there and getting the stoppage over Khalid, right? Again, that was 3 years ago, right? But we've seen, the win over, Long Xiao, that got him a little bit of hype. That was 4 years ago, man, right? And ever since, he's getting submitted and getting submitted against Hani Barcelos. Again, Barcelos, he checks some of these young guys, but at the end of the day, Quiñonez's path to victory to me is to grapple heavy in this fight. I know he's got some power, right? And we know that Yanez is a really, really good boxer. And what a hyped up guy Yanez was just a few years ago, man. He was being looked at as the next Masvidal, right? He's got that, slick head movement, right? Slipping and ripping, nasty timing with his hands, man. Really, really good boxer. But he's kind of been, exposed a little bit, right? If you could kind of turn it into a little bit of a grit fest, Adrian Yanez tends to, get into some trouble there, right? We saw that against Rob Font where he ran into some issues, right? Because he came off of a nice win over Tony Kelly. There was some bad blood there, right? And everyone was high on Adrian Yanez. Went out there, I think it was a main card opener against Rob Font and got knocked out, right? And to get knocked out by Rob Font, not the greatest look, right? I know Rob Font's really good. He's got good boxing as well, but I didn't expect Rob Font to get a KO there, right? Gets leg kick TKO'd by Jonathan Martinez, who's got some nasty leg kicks, right? Then goes out there and KOs Vinicius Salvador, who's a scrub. Then goes out there and loses a close one to Daniel Marcos. It was a close fight. At the end of the day, I think Yanez's takedown defense is good enough to keep the fight on the feet to where I feel like he has the advantage. I just get nervous, man, because we've seen Yanez, as good of his boxing as he gets hit. He likes to get into the pocket, likes to move his head, right? He's very, very good, but he's still hittable. For as good of a boxer as he is, he still has some holes when it comes to the defense. Quiñonez has some power, man. He's able to stop you with some serious power in that right hand. He's got a solid ground game to where maybe if he could take down Yanez, he can control him, maybe find a submission. But historically, we've seen that Yanez seems to have a pretty solid ground game. I think he's scrambly enough to stay safe. If Quiñonez tries to take the fight to the floor, I expect a fun back-and-forth scrap. We get into the later rounds. The body work of Yanez is nasty. I think he's going to put water in the basement early, start to melt Cristian as the fight plays out, and then I think that he is able to land a shot, tire him out, get a TKO stoppage via body work late in round number 3. Give me Adrian Yanez to get this one done, man. I like Adrian Yanez. I'm not giving up on him. Next, we have Jamall Emmers versus Hyder Amil. This is an interesting one, man. I've went back and forth on this fight. I'm not so sold about Hyder Amil. I know a lot of people are so quick to pick Hyder Amil in this fight. Jamall Emmers is low-key kind of good, man. Like, Jamall Emmers is, even the fights that he's losing, they're scraps, man. Like, he's going out there and, he's winning a decision, right? Split decision against Jack Jenkins, who's a really well-rounded fighter. Very good on the feet, good kicks, decent boxing. Goes out there, finishes a pretty durable Dennis Buzukja, but I've always said that Buzukja is not UFC level. I've always, thought the reason he got the deal was because, of the camp that he trains at, that Longo gym, right? Goes out there, gets stopped by Nate Landwehr, but that was a good fight, man. There was some great back and forths there, right? And then he's coming off of a nice finish victory over Gabriel Miranda. Here's my hesitation with Jamall Emmers in this fight. He starts fast. He's very, very good early on. Got the cleaner technique on the feet than Hyder Amil, to where I could definitely see him catching Hyder Amil early and getting a TKO stoppage. But if he doesn't do that, I feel like Hyder Amil, the Hurricane, is the perfect name for him, man. He is going to put Emmers in a storm after surviving and drowning this guy as the fight plays out. And I feel like that's ultimately what's going to happen is Hyder Amil is going to drown Jamall Emmers with pressure. And that's kind of what we've seen as the Achilles heel for Jamall Emmers, right? Nicknamed Pretty Boy. That kind of fits the styles, right? The Hurricane of Amil. He's just looking to drown his opposition with chaos, with volume, with pressure. And Emmers likes that nice, clean, technical fight. Hyder Amil tends to block too many punches with his faces and I don't like that. But he is a dog, and his only loss in his career was to Jose Delgado, and I faded Amil heavy in this fight because I'm like, Delgado is the real deal, and I thought he got robbed against Nathaniel Wood. Delgado's for real, man. Right, but outside of that, the strength of schedule's not that great, though. Right, got the win on the Contender Series, finished Fernie Garcia, right, finished Lee, split decision against Gomes. I think this is a close fight, man. I think it's a close fight, and I'm going to say that Hyder Amil wins a war here by decision. I feel like Emmers is going to have a really good first round, maybe even almost knocks out Hyder Amil, but then I feel like Amil is going to come back and pour it on strong and win rounds 2 and 3. This guy just has a way of drowning people in this tornado of chaos. I just don't really like the technique of Amil, though, man. And that's why I was so hesitant, is I'm a sucker for a good sharpshooter, a guy that's got good technique, man, especially with some snappy power like Jamall Emmers. I think Jamall Emmers is very capable of winning this fight. But I am going to side with Hyder Amil due to the pressure, due to the durability. I don't think his chin's going to be compromised from that fight, even though it was, 4 months ago. I think he comes back, mixes in the takedowns, lands some big shots up against the fence, drags this fight out, and just makes this a gritty street fight type of fight. Give me Hyder Amil to get this one done by a chaotic decision. I think this is going to be a banger, man. One of the best fights on the card. Next, we have Marco Tulio versus CLD Cristian Leroy-Duncan. I wanted to pick CLD to win this fight so bad because I really like CLD, man. I've been a fan of him since he came into the UFC, right? Got that long frame, 6'2", 79-inch reach, flashy striking, switches stances, good footwork, very elusive. But I feel like he's met his match in this fight, man. I think Marco Tulio is going to have the answers for CLD, but I will say this. I think that this fight is going to play out the full 15 minutes. Maybe Marco Tulio gets a knockout. Maybe he submits CLD. Maybe CLD finds a shot and is able to time something to knock out Tulio. I'm not writing off CLD in this fight, man. I think that, to me, this is more of a coin flip fight. I know a lot of people are high on Tulio. I am as well. But CLD's for real, man. And he's been in the UFC fighting some pretty solid opposition, right? And if you look at, the Tululan finish, right? Goes out there, finishes Ribeiro, right? Decision loss to RoboCop. But we know RoboCop's on the ground. He are good on the ground. He had to break out the ground skills. Right? Then he goes out there and beats Puliev, who's a tall, rangy guy, goes out there, finishes an older, washed-up Eric Anders. So, I'm kind of unsure with CLD and kind of where to rate him at this point. And we're going to find out in this fight because Marco Tulio is for real, man. This guy is super dangerous, right? Beat Yusri Belgarawi. Now, granted, I think Belgarawi was compromised coming into this fight here on the Contender Series, but still, he was landing good shots on Yusri, who's a glory kickboxer, just went out there and, destroyed Azamat Bakoyev, was landing good shots on him. Broke out the grappling, was able to dominate him on the floor, right? Goes into LFA, gets a finish, back on the Contender Series, gets a stoppage, goes out there, finishes Ior Potieria, coming off of a complete beatdown against Trayshawn Gore. Marco Tulio's for real, man. I think this guy's really, really good, but he's got to be careful because CLD throws some of those wild spinning techniques. He's fast, he's super athletic, but also some of those spinning techniques might get CLD into some trouble because when you do that, if Tulio can time it, he's going to be able to get to the back and take him down. I think we see Tulio land some big shots on the feet. Maybe he hurts, CLD, gets him out of there. Maybe CLD catches him. I think we're going to have to see more of a savvy, crafty type of performance from Marco in this fight. I think he breaks out the grappling, mixes things up, and is able to win a decision. But I think he's going to grapple a little bit in this fight to try to neutralize some of the elusiveness that CLD brings to the table. I expect Marco to win this comfortably, but it is a little tricky because I do like CLD, and I think that he is a tricky puzzle on the feet. But I think Tulio's grappling game is solid. I know CLD's pretty decent on the ground as well, but I feel like Tulio has the advantage there, and he's super dangerous on the feet. Give me Marco to get this one done. Next, we have Ricky Simón versus Hani Barcelos. This is a good fight, man. This is one of those fights where it's like, styles make fights. One of those where you come in and stylistically it's interesting because Ricky Simón has been in there with some of the best guys in the bantamweight division, right? And it's crazy because he holds a victory over Merab Dvalishvili. He was able to submit him, I believe, right? Ricky Simón's got good cardio, right? And he's coming off of I'd say the best win of his career, honestly, or 2 fights ago against Javid Basharat, where he knocked him out with a nasty right hand on that Seattle Fight Night card. And then he's coming off of a dominant decision win over Cameron Smotherman. So, Ricky Simón's one of those guys to where he loses kind of to the big names, right? Gets stopped by Song Yadong, Mario Bautista, Vinny Oliveira. He's losing to the better, prospects, the more dangerous guys that are in the rankings. That's who Ricky loses to. Hani Barcelos, I picked him in that last fight against Cody Garbrandt, especially after what we saw against Peyton Talbot. I mean, he's riding a nice win streak here. He submitted Cristian Quiñonez, who's also on this card. But before that, we saw him lose to Kyler Phillips. We saw him get stopped by Umar Nurmagomedov. Barcelos is 38 years of age, but he's still in there competing at a high level, man. He's got a solid ground game, nice submission skills, pretty decent on the feet, right? He's not really afraid to open up because he has confidence in his ground game. But I feel like that might be a little bit of a problem here because while Ricky Simón, in terms of his fighting career, 33, yeah, it sounds young, but he's been around for a while, man. I feel like he's got quite a few miles on him. I feel like Ricky Simón's starting to kind of hit, not a resurrection in his career, but kind of this rebirth, I guess, right? He's kind of starting to find some success here, man. And I feel like his boxing is going to be the difference in this fight. I feel like if anybody's going to have this success with the ground game, it would be Ricky. I don't know, man. I feel like he's going to be able to outstrike Hani Barcelos and win a decision here. I think it's a competitive fight, though. I got a lot of love for Barcelos, man. This guy has been going out there and beating up on some good guys. He's got a good submission game, solid grappling. He's not afraid to go out there and slug on the feet. But I feel like this matchup is kind of one of those where it's just a matchup thing where Ricky Simón is going to be able to get this one done. I think he matches up better with Barcelos than a Garbrandt, than a Peyton Talbot. I like the wrestling. I like the cardio. I like the durability that we've seen quite a bit from Simón. And I think his striking is good enough to be able to edge this one out over Hani Barcelos. Give me Ricky Simón by a competitive decision. Next, we got Ismael Bonfim versus Chris Padilla. I went back and forth on this fight, man, because a lot of people are writing off Ismael Bonfim coming into this, right? And I understand that, right? But again, these 2 losses out of the last 5 are to Benoit Saint-Denis, who we're seeing is very, very good. We all know that Benoit Saint-Denis is really good, right? He's a guy that basically is in the rankings, right, and can compete towards the back of the rankings. Got a big opportunity coming up with Beneil Dariush. So Benoit Saint-Denis, no joke. Right, goes out there, beats Vince Pichel, but then he's coming off of this stoppage loss, here against Nazim Salikhov, but Nazim's a monster, man. Super dangerous on the feet. And before these, right, and then he had the crazy flying knee KO against Terrence McKinney, right, the win on the Contender Series. Bonfim's explosive, man. He's very, very dangerous. But I almost feel like this is kind of a troubling matchup for him, man, because one of the underdogs that he seems like he comes in as an underdog every single fight, man, and that is Chris Padilla, 3-0 in the UFC. Submitted James Yontop, who's got one of the craziest chins we've ever seen in the UFC. Not a great fighter, but crazy chin, right? Stops Rong Zhu, who's pretty solid. Goes out there, wins a close fight against Jai Herbert. Underwhelming, but Jai Herbert's a tricky, rangy striker. I feel like he's better, honestly, than Ismael Bonfim on the feet. He's tricky, snappy. Remember, he dropped Ilia Topuria with a head kick, right? Jai Herbert's slick on the feet, man. Underrated striker. Ismael Bonfim, he's shown some vulnerabilities on the ground. While he's well-rounded, right, explosive on the feet, I'm fading him in this fight, man. I'm going to pick Chris Padilla to win this fight by a decision. I feel like Bonfim, a clean, technical explosion contest kind of favors Bonfim, and I don't think Padilla is going to give him that fight. I think Padilla is going to mix things up. He's going to turn this into an MMA fight. He's not just going to stand in front of Bonfim and look to trade. I think he's going to look to level change, right? He's got some nasty elbows we've seen, right? I think he's going to break out the elbows here as Bonfim tries to step in with his punches. He'll crack him with some of those elbows, deter some of the boxing, right? I think he's got the better wrestling, right? And on the floor, I feel like Padilla might be a little bit better. So as long as Padilla doesn't go out there and try to have this explosion contest on the feet with Bonfim, I actually feel like Chris Padilla can go out there and get this one done as an underdog once again. I think it's a competitive fight. I think it's going to be very close. But I feel like if someone's going to get a stoppage, I could see maybe Bonfim landing a knee, some sort of explosive shot. But also I could see Padilla beating him up too, man. Padilla's good. He's underrated, man. Very, very underrated, but we're going to find out how good he is because I feel like Bonfim is a little bit of a step up from some of these other guys. But again, like Rongju's pretty good, and so is Herbert. I feel like those guys are a little underrated. So I don't know, actually, that it's that much of a step up. I'm not really high on the Bonfim brothers, in case you can't tell. So I'm going to say Chris Padilla wins this one by a decision, man. I think that he turns this into a dogfight, and I think that that's where he's going to thrive, and we're going to see Bonfim melt a little bit in a fight like that. Give me Chris Padilla by a decision. Next, we have Muslim Salikhov versus Uros Medic. I'm picking Muslim Salikhov by a round one knockout, man. Listen, I think no matter who wins this fight, I don't think we get out of the first round. I think someone is getting knocked out in round number one here, but I'm going to pick Salikhov, right? I've really liked what I've seen from him, right? I know he's 41 years of age, right? But he's kind of one of those guys that at 41 years old, he's still, sipping from the fountain of youth, man, right? He's still moving well. Got a decent ground game that maybe he can look to turn to if things get a little dicey, but we know that, the king of Kung Fu, man. He's going to go out there, throw these wild, flashy techniques, which could get him in some trouble because Uros Medic, I think, is going to be a little bit faster than him, right? Medic is 32, right? Obviously, Muslim, he's been in there with some good guys, man, right? Like, I mean, the guys he's losing to, like, it's a Nicholas Dalby who is a dog, man, got some power, right? Got, sniped by Randy Brown. Right, then he goes out there, beats Ponzinibbio over a year ago. Kind of a, performance. But then he KOs, Kenan Song with a crazy spinning wheel kick. Then goes out there and starches Carlos Leal. A lot of people were writing him off in that fight, right? Carlos Leal, super dangerous guy, yoked out of his mind, right? Super dangerous guy, walked right into range with his hands down, and Salikhov just slept him. Uros Medic is a little bit of a different challenge because he's more methodical. And when you chase after Salikhov, that's where he tends to have success, which is why I'm worried for Muslim in this fight, man. I am. Because Medic doesn't really chase, right? He's knocking out Matthew Semmelsberger, right? Gets subbed by Orlabai, but Orlabai is very good on the ground. Starches Tim Means. Again, not a great win. Tim Means kind of over the hill at that point. Gets finished on the ground by Punahele Soriano. Not a great look, considering how Soriano just looked against Veretennikov. Right, goes out there and beats Gilbert Urbina. I picked him to win this fight by KO, and I mean, he damn near got KO'd by Gilbert Urbina. So if you're getting tagged by Urbina, if you get tagged by Salikhov, you're getting knocked out. So I guess that's kind of what I'm going off of. Uros Medic, he's got a good straight left hand. It's southpaw orthodox matchup, open stance battle. I feel like Uros Medic might be able to sleep Salikhov with that left hand. So I am worried about the speed and the fact that Medic doesn't necessarily, chase, which is kind of where you could kind of, run into some trouble against Salikhov. But I feel like Muslim is going to be able to land on this guy, man. If you're getting tagged by Gilbert Urbina, I just can't help but feel like Salikhov is going to land some sort of big shot. I feel like he's able to clip him on the way in as they're kind of bouncing back and forth. The feint game goes on. Medic charges in. Boom. Salikhov is going to bait out an attack and land a big shot on and give me Salikhov by a first-round knockout. Both of these guys, man, a lot of their wins are by first-round KO. So I feel like someone is getting finished in round number one. I'm going to side with the dog here and Muslim Salikhov, man. Next, we got the co-main event. We got Matt Schnell versus Joseph Morales. I'm going Joseph Morales by a round two submission. Listen, Matt Schnell, I feel like he shouldn't even be fighting anymore. Didn't he retire or something? Like, I know that he, got a win in his last fight, right? He went out there and beat Jimmy Flick by decision, but Jimmy Flick is not that great, right? Decent wrestler, but that's pretty much it, right? Gets submitted by Cody Durden, starched by Steve Erceg, to where everyone thought Steve Erceg was some sort of knockout artist because of it now, and that's not the case. Right? Erceg's got decent striking, but he's not really known for KOing anybody, right? And Matt Schnell's chinny, right? Goes out there, gets, ground and pounded out by Nicolau, right? Submits Sumadarje 3 years ago. I just don't expect Matt Schnell to come out here with this revamped chin. I don't expect him to turn back the hands of time here. Joseph Morales is a guy that is hungry, man. He's got another opportunity in the UFC coming off of, a really, really good, tough season, man. Going out there and, submitting Alibi in the finals. And I think Alibi's really good, man. I wouldn't be surprised to see him in the UFC, sooner rather than later. And going out there beating, I think it was Imanol Rodriguez, who just, got a crazy stoppage on the Contender Series to work his way into the UFC. Imanol Rodriguez starches Matt Schnell, man. So some of the guys that, Morales has been in there with have been really good from tough. I feel like Alibi and, Imanol are both better than Matt Schnell at this point. Schnell's got a solid ground game. Maybe he, turns back the hands of time, right? They maybe Morales gets caught in a scramble. I'm not anticipating that, man. Joseph Morales is a smart fighter, man. He's hungry. He's got another opportunity in the UFC. I feel like Matt Schnell is just hanging around at this point. I feel like Joseph Morales can hurt him on the feet. He can out-grapple him. And I feel like he's eventually going to find a submission in this fight. Morales has got a good sub game, good control on the floor. I like the way he blends the wrestling with the jiu-jitsu, solid striking. Give me Morales. I think at this point in time, he is clearly the better fighter, and I feel like he's got more ways to win. Give me Morales to get this one done over the chinny, and I feel like washed Matt Schnell at this point. I feel like this is a spotlight that Morales should thrive in here. Last but not least, we got the main event of the evening, and if you are still around, man, and you're enjoying this video, if you could give it a like and subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate it. Whew. I've wrestled back and forth with this fight, man, because I can see this going a number of different ways. I am not high on the Bonfim brothers. I'm just not. I've picked Gabriel Bonfim to win, I think, basically all of his fights since he's been in the UFC, at least over his past few, right? He's went out there, right, beat Angelosa by a decision. I don't think Luce is that good, right? So I expected him to finish him in that fight. Goes out there, subs Chaos Williams. I mean, Chaos Williams is, he's scrappy, but he's sloppy technique, easy to get in on the hips and take down. Still impressive, right? Because, Chaos Williams is not a scrub. He's dangerous. But, I don't know. I'm not sold. Then he goes out there and I thought he lost to Stephen Thompson here. I picked him in this fight, and I thought he lost. Stephen Thompson was, banging him up on the feet. And I get it, right? Wonder Boy, even though he's 40-some years of age, he still moves like he's 30, right? Sniper on the feet, super tricky puzzle to deal with. So I usually give fighters a little bit of a pass when they're dealing with Stephen Wonderboy Thompson because of the riddle that Wonderboy presents. And again, Bonfim's only 28. But then I look at Randy Brown. I look at Randy Brown here, who's 6'3". He's got about a 6-inch reach advantage here, right? And he's a guy that has been on a nice, quiet win streak. I call Randy Brown Mr. Sneaky Man because this is a guy that feels like he gets slept on a lot. Right, a lot of people kind of just write off Randy Brown, and I've been picking him in most of these fights, man. Goes out there, beats Wellington Turman by decision, starches Muslim Salikhov, who we know is very dangerous on the feet, goes out there, beats Zaleski Dos Santos, but I guess the argument would be, well, both of these guys are older, Bonfim's, kind of in his prime, I get it. Right, goes out there, loses the split decision of Battle. I picked Battle here, but I thought Brown won. Right, and I think that Battle missed weight, right? And he kind of just weaponized that by holding, Brown up against the fence, right? And then goes out there and starches Nicholas Dalby after getting rocked in that fight. And Dalby, he did KO Gabriel Bonfim. Again, MMA math, 2 + 2 = 5. So I don't really look at that too much. This is a 5-round fight. And if I have to have confidence in a gas tank of one of these fighters, I'm going to have confidence in the veteran that has been in the UFC for a while and Rude Boy Randy Brown. I feel like he's got the gas tank that I can trust for 25 minutes. The problem that I have is Gabriel Bonfim, I feel like, yes, he got outstruck by Wonderboy, and I get it, all that. Wonderboy's a puzzle on the feet. Bonfim typically is pretty good on the feet, man. He is. We saw against Trey Waters on the Contender Series, he was outstriking him, right? And then took him down and submitted him, right? He's got pretty good striking, right? He's got a good sweeping left hook, solid calf kicks, where we've seen Randy Brown's got that, he's a big, tall guy, but he's got those little chicken legs, right? To where I could see Bonfim looking, beat up the legs a little bit. Right, but Randy Brown switches stances nicely, right? So I worry about that. The leg kicks, right? Bonfim's got the grappling edge, right? He's got solid wrestling, good jiu-jitsu on the floor. But Randy Brown's pretty good on the ground, man. Like, he's got pretty solid takedown defense, not the easiest guy to take down, right? He got hurt by JDM, who's one of the better boxers in the sport, right? Got hurt and then subbed. So it's not like we've really seen Randy Brown just get taken down and completely punked on the floor. So that would be kind of something new here. Am I expecting that in this fight? I think it's definitely a possibility. But I think Gabriel Bonfim is going to have some success at some point with the grappling. But I think Randy Brown is going to work back to his feet, and it's going to become discouraging for Gabriel Bonfim. I don't trust the gas tank, man. I just don't whatsoever. And I feel like Randy Brown at 35 years of age, I don't know, man. Something's telling me that he's going to be able to land a shot in this fight. I'm going to say Randy Brown. Maybe I change my prediction as we get, later in the week here. But where my head is at right now, I'm going Randy Brown by round 2 KO. I think that Bonfim, he's good. He's very, very good. I think he's underrated on the feet. I know people are, crapping on him because of the Wonderboy fight. But he is underrated on the feet, man. Like, he is not a scrub on the feet. I think he can strike with Randy Brown. I think he has the ground skills. I just don't trust his gas tank. And Randy Brown is, when he shows up, Randy Brown is one of these guys that it's like whenever he decides to actually show up and he's locked in, Randy Brown, I feel like, is such an underrated striker in the welterweight division. I honestly think he's one of the better strikers in this weight class. Tall, rangy frame, nasty jab, really good straight right hand, mixes up his shots well. He can switch stances if that lead leg's getting attacked to throw, the jab in the left hand. Good straight punches, man. Very, very good, striking from Randy Brown. Uses his range well, got good front kicks. Maybe got to be a little weary so then that way Bonfim doesn't catch it and aid it into a takedown. I worry about the leg kicks, man. I worry about the leg kicks. I worry about, if Battle's pushing you up against the fence. I feel like that's what Bonfim is going to look to do. Take away some of the explosiveness. But if Randy Brown, I feel like he's going to catch him early, man. Off of a grappling exchange, Bonfim gets tired, man. He really, really does. We've seen in those fights, man, especially in the Dalby fight, comes out looking real good on the feet in round 1, and there's this big drop-off usually with his energy. I feel like that's what we're going to see here. I feel like Randy Brown is going to be able to snipe Gabriel Bonfim after a grappling exchange up against the fence, to where Bonfim's going to be looking to kind of regain some air, try to move, try to, get his win back, and Randy Brown's not going to let him off the hook and is going to be able to land a nasty right hand on him and put him down. I'm going to go with the underdog here in Randy Brown, man. That's where my head's at. I've been rolling back and forth with this because I feel like, again, Bonfim's 28. He's got the ground game. Right, Randy Brown, we've seen, even the guys he's beating up on are a little bit older, but I just haven't been impressed with Bonfim, man. I know he's got a lot of submissions, but a lot of those were before the UFC. I know he's got some in the UFC, right, and submitting Chaos Williams is impressive, but I got more, I think, more highly of Randy Brown on the feet than I do Chaos Williams. I like the technique of Randy. I like the power, the movement, the range management. I feel like maybe Randy gets clipped, right, which scares me because it's one of those fights where Bonfim can hurt him on the feet and Randy's in trouble because Bonfim does have a couple KOs. He's got a good, striking background. That worries me, obviously, with the grappling threat here. But Randy's got solid takedown defense, right? And, Bonfim's struggling to take down Wonderboy. And Wonderboy stayed safe against the submissions, right? But again, Steven's always preparing for grapplers, where I feel like Randy's doing some of the same. Preparing for guys to try to take him down, right? So if Wonderboy's staying safe on the ground, can Randy Brown stay safe on the floor? I think he can. I think he can unless he gets stung on the feet, man. I trust the gas tank of Randy Brown more. I think he's sharper. I think he's got the power, the timing. Give me Randy Brown to go out here and get a knockout, man. This would be a huge win for him. I'm rooting for Randy Brown either way, right? So I'm like, is my bias coming into play here because I'm going to be rooting for Randy? But I just don't think highly of Bonfim. I've been picking him, and I just have not been impressed, man. I was impressed with the Chaos Williams fight, and that's about it. That's about it. I wasn't impressed in this fight. Wasn't impressed in the Wonderboy fight. I don't know, man. I think that he's a little bit overrated, but maybe Bonfim is that good. He's got the edge on the ground for sure. But I don't know, man. I feel like the wiry Randy Brown is going to come out here with a point to prove, and I think Rude Boy is going to get a knockout in round number 2. And if it drags out, I feel like that favors Randy as well. So I feel like if Bonfim's going to win, he's going to get a submission within the first couple rounds. But if not, I just don't know that his gas tank can hold up for 25 minutes. Maybe it can. We haven't seen it. Big spotlight, right? Wasn't the last time Bonfim was in a big spotlight? Wasn't this a co-main event? He got, beat up by Dalby, or, it was a big card at least. Right, and I feel like this guy feels the moment, right? Against Wonderboy, I don't know, man. I just don't have a lot of confidence in Gabriel Bonfim. I like Randy Brown. I'm going to pick him to win this fight. If you guys enjoyed this video, please give it a like. Let me know what you think down in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss an upload. I would appreciate it. See you next time.